Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Premiership Podcast. We're your hosts, Jacob.
And Elijah.
Let's get crack-a-lacking into round 23, where the Lions beat the Pies.
Yeah, so Marvel Stadium, not the MCG, 124 to 100. Brisbane coming on top. There's quite a few things to talk about from this game, as with a lot of others from this round. But Brisbane finally winning in Melbourne, not the MCG, but they win in Melbourne. What are your takeaways?
My takeaways for this game is that Brisbane have given themselves a more likely opportunity of playing home finals, thus increasing their chances of possibly making the grand final. And I say choke, which they have done in the past. I do expect them to go a long way if they do get a home qualifying final. In regards to the Pies, I'm not sure what I know what you're going to say about this, but I am not too concerned about the Pies, even though they lost this game and they've lost quite a bit in the past month. But with the significant injuries that they have out, the only real concern that I have here is that they don't really have a plan B once their big guns go out, like Nick Dacos and Darcy Moore, and a couple others. I think Sidebottom was out. And once the big guns are out, they don't really have anything to fall back onto with their elite players. Like Degoe's been out of form. You got their forward line who's a bit out of form, out of touch. Their defensive structure's out of touch. They've gotten Jeremy Howe, who's a prominent defender going up forward, which I do like, but they don't have that creative flair that they had at the start of the season. And yet again, I'm not too concerned about them. I do think they'll beat the Bombers this week. That'll be explained during the predictions. But I do feel as though the Pies have something to play for next week, because if they lose and I think Port Adelaide and Brisbane win, they'll drop all the way down to third.
Yeah. I think Port has to make up percentage, but yes. Yeah.
So either way, I do expect the Pies to make a home final and make a prelim final as well. That's Brisbane and Collingwood's roof at the moment.
Well, I wouldn't fancy them for the Premiership though.
At this moment, yes.
Really?
At this moment, until we see what they're like in the finals, I do expect them to make prelims, but against who? If it's against Carlton, I do expect, due to the fact that the Pies have more finals experience, I'll take my word back. I do expect the Pies to still make the grand final.
Right, interesting. Well, they made it to the prelims last year, losing to Sydney by a point. But, I mean, if you look at the history, right, the premiers of the last 10 years, we'll take, you've probably seen it floating around social media. Everyone has a winning record. Very few at that have gone 3-2 for the last 5 games. So that means basically, assuming that every team that will win the team that win the flag wins the final round of the season. Every team that in the top 8 right now, besides Collingwood, can win it. So the Pies, which are first, they're 3-1 of the last 4. If they win, history says they won't do it. Okay, similar story with the Bulldogs. In the chance that they do make finals, which means the Giants lose, they win. They won't win it. This was just the stats say.
I'd like to say that even though these are statistics from the past, they are just from the past. Even though they are true, I do think that they are just statistics at the end of the day. And the finals are a completely different season compared to the home and away season.
Yeah.
The pressure, the intensity, the crowd as well. I feel like the Pies will have the home advantage if they have home finals.
Well, okay, assuming the ladder plays out as it is now, and everyone's going where they expect, Pies will play Melbourne, MCG blockbuster, with injuries. Unless Melbourne play Grundy, they're not beating that. So they're going to semis, right?
I feel like the Pies will be versing Port Adelaide in the first final.
Okay, let's assume they do. Okay, who's coming up to play them then in the prelims, right? Which isn't because they either go down to the semi-finals, they play Carlton or the Giants.
Mm-hmm. That's incorrect. It's whoever wins out of 5th and 6th. So it's either St Kilda or Sydney.
Interesting. Okay, I thought it'd be the other way around.
And then they'll be most likely versing Brisbane at the Gabba.
Because I always assumed it was 2-2 middle. Because assuming that the higher seed always wins, then it'll stay as normal. So top, middle. So 3rd versus 6th and 4th versus 5th. But anyway,
it's always 2nd versus 3rd, and then whoever wins out of 5th and 8th versus the loser of 2nd and 3rd, if I remember correctly.
No, I'm getting the predictor up now. I'm verifying this. So let's say.
Yes.
I'm right.
You're right.
I'm right.
All right, fair enough.
So Collingwood, if they lose qualifying final, they'll play 5th or 8th. Right. So that's probably going to be the Blues or the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
It's a tough road either way, but finals, like I said, is a completely different ball game. But back to the topic at hand, Brisbane outplayed.
They played a really good game.
They played very good, very very good.
I mean, if anything, to me, they've proven that not MCG, but they can win comfortably against a top side, so to speak, in their enemy territory. So. As far as I see it, even though statistically, Brisbane kind of was in the back step, it was pretty even statistically, and Collingwood, if anything, led those. Brisbane just were better. They just outplayed them, and it shows to me they can at least make the grand final. They have what it takes to make it there. They'll play 2 games at the Gabba, assuming they win. The first, and I honestly think they could make a lot of noise these finals.
100%.
Yeah.
Of course, they've had their past finals blunders, but hopefully they can right the wrongs of the past and moving forward do something great with the team that they have.
Yeah, I could also see them taking first seed at that because of Collingwood's form and Brisbane's form respectively. I'd be careful of the Saints though; they're kind of on fire. I don't want to understate that, but they're a chance. I dare say more of a chance than Collingwood.
That's fair enough. Fair call. Yeah. On to Saturday.
Yeah. So, Saturday, a lot of farewells now. So, Richmond and beating North Melbourne, MCG, 101-72. Jack Riewoldt could not get enough goals for his goodbye game. He had... Was it 1 goal 3?
He's not a Jared Rufford where he kicks 6.
No, he's not. But look, Shea Bolton had 4, Martin had 3, and Nick Larkey from the Kangas had 6. Overall, not too bad game considering where these teams are at. Yeah, there's not bad at all.
The only thing I can say about this game is that they've got a lot of young players who they haven't re-signed yet, and if they are keen on getting on the rebuild, then I'd sign some of their young players like Thompson Dow, Poltard. They've got a bunch of young players who just haven't signed on yet, and I'd been investing in those young players and developing them for the next era because it truly is an end of an era at the Tigers.
Yeah.
got Tom Lynch, who probably has another year or two in him. Dion Prestia, who's up in the air because what I've seen on social media, he might be going back to Queensland. There's Dusty Martin, whose legacy will forever remain at Richmond. So it's time. It's a bit of out with the old and in with the new for the Tigers. Jack Rewell and Trent Cotchin, champion footy players for their respective clubs. For their respective club. 3 premierships, a couple Coleman medals, and a Brownlow medal for Trent Cotchin. So congratulations on such stellar careers for these fine gentlemen. And another retiree in Jack Zeeble. The drama that happened after this game, we'll get into in the final messages, but a true shin boner through and through at the Roos as well.
Definitely. Yeah, actually, in a rough few seasons coming up for the Tigers. All old players now pretty much going away now, and just looking forward to next. And I guess the good players should there now. I don't know if they'll even be there for when Tigers are back up there. They might be the bridging players at this point. So, unfortunately, it's sad to see, but hey, happens to the best of us. And
especially with Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper coming, thinking at the start of the season, one final crack at a premiership, and now they're on a rebuild, which they're sort of used to at the Giants when they were building. But
yeah,
it does say, it's a bit disappointing that we couldn't get the premiership, but they're going to build up to something eventually either way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had Tigers winning the flag at the start of the season, I think. So, it just ran out of legs at the very end. But I mean, a few of them might go up to the Gold Coast now because Dimmer's there. I would suspect. Not sure about Dusty. I would hope not, but you never know. And then, yeah, I'm not sure about the others. A lot of the older guys might just retire or whatever. I'm not sure, but
yeah. It's gonna be a bit of like a Hawthorn rebuild where they get a bunch of young players, retire a bunch of the old players, and start fresh. I reckon.
Yeah, kind of. And I guess North Melbourne they're kind of rebuilding now. If they let go of, I think it was Mackay, they receive the first and second picks, if I recall right. They're currently holding the first pick because West Coast won. We're diving into that one for sure. But yeah, they might have those next 2 picks, and that's 3 spoons in a row. It's not looking fantastic for them. I dare say.
You look at that, and you look at Wardlaw, Sheasel, and hopefully Harley Reid up their spine. Then you got Nick Larkey as their forward. They build around that. They can go anywhere with that.
Yeah, definitely. They just need other personnel around the club to do it. And they've shown before that they have the potential to push some teams. I think, was it Melbourne last week or the week before?
Yeah.
Like, only until half time they were winning. So,
100%.
And comfortably at that. So they definitely have the potential. It's just unlocking those last few pieces and consistency, as you're about to say, yeah. But all in all, this game, it was all right. It's pretty much just a farewell game. Last game for a few of the greats.
Champions.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else in that one, or we're good to go?
All good to go.
Awesome. All right. Nearly an upset over at the Gold Coast. If not for Charlie Curnow. The Blues getting over the Suns 91-87. 4 points. This was a good game. I did watch the last quarter of this one. It was very, very good and competitive. Curnow, he had 5 goals. No, he's pretty much locked away that Coleman medal now.
100%. Yeah.
Motlop always and Jack Martin, they were a couple each. And they had David Swallow. He was the goal kicker for the Suns. He had 4 goals, 3. So a lot of good players. Sam Flanders had a great game. I noticed. Took Miller as usual. Ainsworth, Anderson for the Suns, as you'd expect. And then Nick Newman back in defense for the Blues. Great contributors all around. Fantastic game of football. Just a bit short.
Came down to that Charlie Curnow mark.
It did.
The Blues are the most, I've probably said in the past that Adelaide are one of the most lethal teams outside the top 8, but now they're not making the top 8, and we'll get to that later. But at the moment, Carlton are the most lethal and damaging team outside that top 4. So they're probably the ones who are most likely to make a grand final outside the top 4 as well. And due to the statistics, they don't have any reason not to play a grand final. Yeah. The only concern I have for the Blues is their finals experience. That's the only problem that they have at their club, because they haven't played in a final since 2013, and that was I think
Richmond.
That game, that was Richmond.
They beat Richmond and went to the semis and got smashed. I think by West Coast or something.
Sydney, I think.
Either one.
Either or, but good on the Blues for getting into the finals. 2 months ago, everyone hating on them and showing quite disrespect, which is why I don't really like the club, because they're like, oh, team's down, I'm just going to disrespect them, and then, I'm the most loyal fan ever. But as much as we crack on them, Harry Mackay doing those silly misses, he's a bit of a cheeky fellow. Good on them for proving everyone wrong. They've gotten like 9 wins in a row now, so they're rolling quite well into the finals. But as we've seen from Collingwood and Port Adelaide, eventually that winning streak does come to an end. And whether or not it'll be in the finals, we'll have to wait and see. In regards to the Suns, was a very competitive game of football. Now that they've got Dimmer signed up there, will be interesting to see where they can go in the next 2-3 years with the personnel that they'll get with Dimmer Hardwick at the helm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all up from this club, and he said, 80% of the what he thinks is the Premiership side's already at the club, which is.
I find that interesting. I find that very interesting.
Honestly, I would agree. I know there's a few older guys there, but I would tend to agree. Like Flanders, Anderson, Rowell, like maybe not David Swallow, but like Took Miller, Ainsworth, like these guys who are even great on the weekend. They'll be good for years to come.
The thing that really makes me disappointed about that statement is, what was Stewie Dew doing then?
That's a big thing too, because he seemed like a good coach. So
yeah. So where does that leave like the Stewie Dew conversation? I find it quite disrespectful in a sense that 80% of the team is a premiership side all of a sudden. And they are fantastic players. They're at the highest level of football, but you got to give some credit to Stewie Dew to finding a couple of these players and making them remain at the club.
Well, maybe it's not just the players, because sure, you can have 80% of the players there already, and even with Stewie Dew, it's shown like they can play good football against great sides and win, but like high pressure situations, it's been shown they're not too fantastic. That's just experience. That's not any of the coaches' fault or anything. It could also just be the facilities and other people around. Might not be players. So
fair enough.
A lot of different factors in football. And even though I would agree that the pieces are there on the field, it might be stuff off field which are kind of holding them back a little.
Fair enough.
But I mean, this game was a cracker. Yeah, this was an absolute banger of a match. Unlike the next one we'll talk about, I mean, yeah, this is Suns Blues. You wouldn't expect it, but hey, it was close.
I've got nothing else to say.
Yeah, I mean, all I will say is for the power rankings, if Suns managed to win, they'd definitely be higher. If they just didn't, they just needed to close that game out. But not for that, they're where they are now because of performance. But they would have definitely been higher if they managed to close it out for sure.
100%.
All right. Demolition at in Sydney, Giant Stadium. 126 points. 21 goal victory to the Giants. 162 to 36 over the Essendon Bombers. Jesse Hogan, he was everywhere. 9 goals. Fantastic. Yeah, he needed 17 marks on top of that too. 24 touches. He was everywhere. You had Himmelberg with 8 marks and 30 touches. Tom Green, absolute masterclass. He had 39 touches and 6 marks too. They were just everywhere, and it's outperforming the Bombers every single way. I don't know how I can cut it to make it not sound like Essendon played poorly, but they played very poorly.
They played like garbage.
I reckon I've seen under 14 sides in Div 5 play more coordinated football than what was going on there. They were witches' cones.
Fair enough.
So, especially down in defence. So, I mean, end of season, you had a couple of guys like Redmond who signed a big contract. They're kind of taking it easy, but not when the season's on the line, right? And that's basically just cost them the finals. Sorry, that's a few in a row now too.
They need to win 170 to like 30, and GWS need to lose by about 130 points for the Bombers to make finals.
Yeah, so Giants need to lose by 100, Dons needs to win by 100, and Dogs need to lose.
That's unlikely.
You mean it's not happening? I mean, I'll be going to the Blues Giants game, and I'll let you know, but I don't think it's going to be a 100-point blowout. And I don't think that Essendon's blowing out Collingwood by 100 either, so...
Yeah.
Well, if they're in like any kind of decent form, I'll probably have the Dons over the Pies anyway for next week. But both the teams are kind of in shambles, so it might be a bit of a dreary old Friday night. But this game was it was Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it was...
No, you've pretty much explained everything. I don't really have much to say about this, but Jesse Hogan was a gun. An unlikely bag from an unlikely source as well.
Yeah, and I Phil Davis announcing his retirement earlier in the week. I know we'll get to retirements probably in the end of the season. Yeah, but yeah, something for him to play for too. I know he's not really playing right now, but yeah, a lot of contributors from the Giants, and it was Nuclear Bomb versus Coughing Baby out there
against the Bombers.
Yeah, the Bombers of the Coughing Baby. It was mess. Hopefully they bounce back next week just for some morale.
Hopefully, you'd hope so.
Yeah. A bit more of an interesting game, but for also kind of the wrong reasons. The Saints getting over the Cats at Marvel Stadium, 88-55. I
feel like you're missing a game.
Am I? No. We've got one more for Saturday after this.
Yeah, okay.
And then Sunday. Yeah. But Saints by 33 over the Cats. Saints are in really good form. And Cats, a lot of injuries. End of the season / careers. Kind of similar story to the Tigers. I think this is the end of a dynasty era, whatever you want to call it. Maybe not dynasty, but it was something like over a decade long too, and it's pretty much gone away now.
Since 2007, you'd say.
Thereabouts, yeah. But Roy Marshall had a great game. He had a goal, 24 touches, 10 marks. Wilkie and Brad Hill, yeah, they had 14 and 13 marks respectively. But the Saints was everywhere. They had most of the ball. They pretty much every single stat they were leading. Besides tackles, pretty much they had everything. The Cats, they're just looking too slow. They're just unfit. Players injured. I just feel bad at this point, but yeah.
Don't feel bad that it's happening. Feel good that it happened. Because
they blew their final chances.
Yeah. Appreciate what we've seen as much as we hate the Cats because we are Hawthorn supporters and we are born and bred into hating them.
Well, I don't mind the Cats. The Dons are the ones, but yes.
Yeah. But appreciate the nearly 20 years, probably since 2005, since that semi-final with Nick Davis. They've brought us finals upon finals upon finals, and when they've been criticised for being too old, they just prove everyone wrong. And they made, 2 grand finals in the space of 3 years in the 20th century? So 2020, 21st century, 2020 and 2022. So they lost one and they won one eventually, which they were fighting for in the end.
Well, there's something in the middle too. Was it 07, 09, and 11? They all made. Yeah. I'm sorry.
We can just look back in awe with the era that they had, even though they probably could have made more grand finals than they probably should have. Appreciate that they made the effort and time to make consecutive finals series. In regards to St Kilda, they're bringing forth a berth into finals.
Yeah.
They are gelling really well up forward, I feel, with Max King, yeah.
Yes.
Really gelling up forward for them at the moment. Really accurate as well. So he's bringing back the accuracy which he hasn't brought in the past, and good luck to them in the finals.
Yeah, and for once they're bringing good form into finals, so they're not going to get blown out by the Bulldogs for the 50th time in a row in the elimination final. They're actually going to bring some fight and some agency, which is good. I think they lock in finals, but it can be anywhere between 5th and 8th. If
5th and 8th, yeah.
Yeah.
5th and 8th.
Basically depend.
I'd be fighting for that home final, 100%.
To keep it, yes. That's gonna mean you're beating Brisbane, or on the Saturday, or the Blues lose. Actually, no. Yes. No.
Preferably, they'd want to be versing Sydney at Marvel, because I feel like if they verse Carlton are going to run over them. And
they won't. They can't play Carlton. They'll play either the Swans or the Giants. Yeah. But they
play at home.
Yes. That basically don't. Basically, you just want Sydney to lose to Melbourne. That's it. Because if Sydney beat Melbourne, then you lose to Brisbane, and then you're flying to Sydney. It's not the best. So, that being said, though, they have a chance to beat the Lions. I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. But, they're gelling really well down forward, as you were saying before. Even Dan Butler and Jack Higgins, they're in great form. It's just seeming to work at the moment for the Saints, and it's the right time of season too, because you're seeing the Blues, they're making a good run for it. The Lions are in great form. Port's almost kind of in a similar situation, and the Giants, they're all kind of in the same boat together, where it's good form, right time of season. It's not like Collingwood where there's injuries and it's out of form and it's all kind of falling apart. They're all there. And it's all systems go from here for the Saints. And they might not make the prelims top 4, but they'll give it a red hot crack.
100%. They'll give hopefully a good close final for us all to watch. instead of smashing like last year's grand final.
Yes, hopefully.
I hope we have a good grand final this year, by the way.
Oh well, if Brisbane makes it, yeah, I got maybe might not happen, but because it's Brisbane and the MCG. It's who knows.
Who knows? Left to see.
Yeah. But that being said, speaking of waiting and seeing, the Crows falling short, losing to the Swans 73-74. That goal didn't count. It was a behind, and the AFL's come out afterwards and said it did count. By not Dawson.
Keys,
sorry. They said they did count, but it's too late. So, oh boy, the Crow season is over because of that, and the Swans lock in finals.
I'm gonna discuss this game in my angry segment.
All right then. I'll just brush over the basics of the game, and we'll talk about that in the angry segment then. It was a game of two halves. So, first half it was all Swans. There was no stopping them. They're just demolition. Was what 9-5 to 4-3 at halftime. So it was all Swans, and then the opposite story in the second half. It was all Crows. That's pretty much it. So if you watch the first half like I did, you're like, yeah, Sydney wins this comfortably. And then second half, you didn't watch the second half, you go, oh, Crows win this easy. Now that's a controversial finish, which the umpires got wrong, unfortunately. The only thing I'll say to that is don't harass the umpires. They can only adjudicate what they can. So it was an honest mistake. But in terms
an honest mistake?
No, not really. But it was an error on their behalf, which it
was an error on their behalf.
On the umpires, yeah, it was an error on the umpire's behalf. They made a mistake, which happens, and unfortunately, that mistakes now costs an entire football side, the season. The Crows, Lead had a great game. Soligo, Crouch, Dawson, Smith, O'Brien, they had good games. O'Brien dominated the ruck. 49 hitouts. Rochelle and Tex had a couple goals each, but Tex only getting a couple. That's pretty much means he's not getting the common. That goes to Charlie Curnow. In terms of the Swans, Penny had 3 goals, 18 touches, 5 tackles. Gordon, once again, great game, statistically at least. 30 disposals, 5 tackles, a couple of behinds. Match phase converted. That'd be locked away, done. Lloyd, Hickey, probably his last game for next week. Yeah, that's that. Pretty even statistically. Crows just getting the edge. But yeah, it was a game of two halves, and that's all I can say. And it was decided on the buzzer. Oh, not the buzzer, about minutes ago, but on the goal line. And do you want to say anything, or we'll come back to it?
I'm going to come back to it because I saw red when I saw that, and I am enraged.
Oh, everyone saw red. The Bloods were playing. All right, on to Saturday. Sorry, Sunday. On to Sunday.
At least you can make me laugh.
Speaking of controversy, the Eagles getting over the line to the Bulldogs. I watched this one too before the Hawks played. Well, same time actually, but the Eagles won. They're not getting the first seed in the draft anymore. So Harley Reid can breathe. He's not going to WA, assuming that the Kangas don't win on the weekend, but they can breathe. Right, they got a well-deserved win, which is coming for a long time. Cripps had a fantastic game. Jamie Cripps, rather.
Mm-hmm.
5 goals, 8 marks. Great stuff. Oscar Allen had 3 goals. Starling had 2. And, surprisingly, it was the Dogs on the back foot basically from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, even though, they had good contributors, Tim English, Bontempelli, Treloar, and they have the list, like, they're a top 4 side, if you just look at the list. For sure. Right? I dare say they're comparable to the top 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of question marks now on the coaching staff, particularly Bevo. We'll have to see.
Where's you from here? Where to? Like,
Yeah.
You like you said, you look at that list and you're like, yeah, Bontempelli, who's probably the only reason why players are staying at the club because he's an absolute star.
Well, Dunkley
And
left at the end of last season, which he maybe saw this all coming.
And you got Liberatore, who's a father-son. And from watching the media, a lot of players are very happy. They're quite distressed. They're quite disgruntled about everything that's happened at the Dogs. And why they can't crack that top 4, they are wasting a playing group that should be attacking preliminary finals year after year. Like, it's quite disappointing. It's definitely a failed season for the Dogs. If the Giants lose and the Bulldogs win against the Cats, they make the top 8. But in saying that, it'll still be a failed season because they probably won't give any fight because they're just too inconsistent when they should probably be one of the most consistent teams in the league. Good on the Eagles, like Crisp, Oscar Allen, all these players putting in a fair income crack and getting the dub and ultimately not getting that Harley Reid draft pick unless North Melbourne win, like you said. But it's still very disappointing to see that the Dogs are they're not acting like a bulldog. They're acting more like a chihuahua.
All bark, no bite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess, definitely failed season. It's a Premiership side, and they're all in their prime, and nothing's outcome of it.
You're wasting Marcus Bontempelli, who should arguably be a Brownlow medalist and could possibly be a Brownlow medalist this year as well. It is a waste of a player and a waste of a list.
I guess I could probably see them bringing in like Adam Simpson next year as coach. That'd be a good change. I would genuinely like to see.
Adam Simpson. I'd like to see Daniel Giansiracusa.
That would be a good option too, but just because of his experience, I don't know whether you would want more experienced coach just to bring him back
more
in.
Experienced team. Yeah, fair enough.
And whether, Giansiracusa goes to, say, the Eagles, right? Or the studio goes to the Eagles, or there's plenty of holes to fill around the league this offseason. You'll have Richmond as well. Gold Coast is sorted now. They've got Dimmer. But
even Chris Newman, Box Hill.
Yeah.
But he's more linked to the Tigers, isn't he?
I believe so. Yeah. Hawks and Tigers are always pretty linked. But yeah, West Coast finally gets a win. And a lot of ramifications for that on both the Dogs, Eagles, North Melbourne, Giants, everyone else's seasons. Upset of the round. I don't know if the year, because Hawthorn did beat Collingwood a couple of weeks ago. It's definitely up there. So, a lot of ramifications from just this game. Moving on, we'll keep speeding through. Melbourne getting over the Hawks, 87-60 at the MCG. I guess, Hawks were in it until the fourth quarter. We just slipped away.
Simon Goodwin is a bit of a sook. because
this.
yeah, you've seen it. He's said that Finn McGuinness doesn't want to touch the ball. Well, he's the new Ryan Crowley, Finn McGuinness. He is going to get under everyone's skin, and as we saw with the Pies game, with a bit of a scruffle, there was a bit of a scruffle in the Melbourne game. Clayton Oliver only left to 14 disposals, and McGuinness with 13 disposals.
Yeah.
If that's not a role player, I don't know what is. If you look at Ryan Crowley with Ablett Jr., you look at him with like Sam Mitchell, all these prime defenders, he shut them down, and that was his role. Finn McGuinness's role is a young player trying to find his way into the league, and he has found something that he is good at, and that is defending his player. He may not be the most skillful player, but he was an absolute star in shutting down Clayton Oliver, and that should be respected. And I think what Caden Corn said about the sort of design as to how to shut down Melbourne is by tagging Clayton Oliver because they don't like taggers, then go tag them because go for it. Because if they don't like it and they're just going to complain and argue about it, then good luck to you. But at the end of the day, Melbourne did get the dub, the 87-60. A valiant effort with Jai Newcomb out of the side as well. Hustwaite kicking 2 goals on debut. He was pretty good. He was really good, actually.
He was great.
He was really good. So in regards to Hawthorn, we've got a bunch of young blokes coming through who are really exciting. And with Melbourne, they're just fighting for that top 2 position to get a home final.
Yeah.
And they've helped their case by winning that game.
Yeah, and it seals them a top 4 too. And you pretty much all said it. I think if Newcomb plays, Hawks win. So, Hawks play Freo next week and the D's play Sydney. And those will be interesting games for their own reasons. Or not really Hawks Freo. Interesting on Freo's behalf because that's kind of the end of their season. And we'll see how they go from there. What they'll need to change. But for Melbourne, Sydney next week, that'll decide a lot of things in the top 8 on Sunday afternoon.
100%.
But yeah, this was an okay game. Yeah.
I rate it.
Yeah, I did prefer the Eagles game though over this one. Okay, and then last game of the round, we had the Fremantle Dockers just falling short to the Power by 16 points, 58-74 over in Perth. Freo were in it, and I nearly got my tip right, but it didn't fall my way. Yeah, not kicking over 2 goals in this game, surprisingly. But, yeah, Butters, 31 touches, Ollie Wines, 25, Rosie, 24. Yeah. Port just hung out in the end. And I do want to shout out Horn Francis. Because, he played a great game, and he does week in, week out, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
JHF, Rosie, and Butters, quite a formidable young midfield who will attack the finals with a lot of pressure. Even though they've fallen off the face of the planet for a bit, they are still in the top 4, and we will not forget the pressure that they bring. But it's both the Pies and the Power, ever since the game that they versed each other, they've sort of dropped off. And you've noticed that as well, yeah? Ever since they versed each other, they've sort of dropped off.
Kind of. I kind of saw Collingwood from the Hawks game, and I think Power from there, but they're kind of getting their form back, because I know going to Perth to play Freo is a tough ask. Especially they came off a 100-point win the previous week. So it's always going to be tough, and they still managed to scrape it out. They go back to Adelaide to play Richmond next week, which they should win, but I see Port as getting into good form, a round 2 late good form. Whereas Collingwood's kind of all over the place still. But yeah, kind of.
Yeah, either way, I didn't really watch this game. Port Adelaide get the dub. The only thing that I sort of saw from this game is that Benfield's goal should have been a goal. The little scissor kick that he did should have been a goal, but unfortunately wasn't. So that's the only little thing that I have about that game.
I mean, result kind of went the way you'd expect anyway. Unless you're like me, 3 tips down going into the second last round and you need a miracle, which didn't work out. But yeah, like Luke Ryan had a great game from Fremantle. He had 9 marks. Brayshaw 32 touches. Henry, Schultz, usual guys. So Fremantle, man, it's certainly been it's been a season for sure.
Onto power rankings.
Yeah. Enough of the doom and gloom. Let's go into the power rankings. A lot of changes at the top too. You want to take it away or me to?
Yeah, I'll take it away. Now, Elijah and I discussed this before the episode, and I was arguing that Collingwood should stay on top because of the season that they've had. But Elijah's concentrating on current form, which I do admit I agree with. So Brisbane on top, beating the top of the table Pies. They are the threat of the league at the moment. As well as Carlton sitting in seconds. They're the most informed side and the most dangerous leading in the finals. So any other team in the top 8 versus these 2 teams, and even Melbourne, I'd be watching out. Port Adelaide sitting there in 5th, sort of like Collingwood. They've dropped off and now they're sort of getting that form back. GWS, a huge win over the Bombers, really creates some positive stigma around the club going into finals, and it's good to see that Toby Green gets another crack at a final. Who's there? St Kilda moving up rapidly from their bottom 4 position. They are now in the top 8 after 2 rounds, and it is quite a shock to see them moving up so quickly, as we saw them outside the top 8. But now they're showing some good form. They're gelling well and hitting the right notes at the right time at the back end of the season. So they will be a threat in the finals as well. Adelaide and Sydney we'll get to later, but Adelaide, justice for Adelaide, for the Crom. Who's there? Hawthorn. Hawthorn is there because they have shown such good fight, especially against a top team like Melbourne, where they had them for about 3 quarters and sort of just fell away in that last quarter.
Yeah. I guess after that, the Suns just falling short of the Blues. If they did end up beating them, closing that game out, you probably see them creeping up to the top 8. But these are power rankings, not an actual indication of the ladder as a whole. So, Cats just below that, they're not too great form. A lot of injuries. The only benefit I'm giving over the Dogs is that if their injured stars weren't injured, then they would probably beat them. But coming up this weekend, those 2 teams are playing, Cats and Dogs, and it's basically going to come out to the Dogs, unfortunately. 14th got the Tigers. They're all right. That's all I can say. They'll Port Adelaide this week coming, and there might be a familiar face down towards the mid to bottom area of the ladder for maybe next year, maybe the year after. Fremantle just below that. They definitely played on the weekend. It's just it's been a failed season. And they're dropping down to that bottom 4 now. Essendon 16th. Oppenheimer. That's all that happened to them. And then West Coast and North Melbourne at the bottom. I do think in retrospect, maybe West Coast should go higher. But yeah, that's it for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I no, in hindsight, I dare say West Coast, you could probably put them above Freo. Oh no, sorry, not Freo. They lost fast by Freo.
Above Bombers.
Above Essendon maybe, but
yeah,
I'll leave it this week.
One thing I'll ask you, Elijah, is with power rankings next week, in the top 8, will we be putting the teams that are in the top 8 in the top 8?
No.
Yes or no?
As normal. In
Okay.
in finals, if it's just top 8 exclusive, we can cut it down. But as it stands, like if it's the top 8 team, which isn't no, it's performing outside the top 8. You know, we'll sort it out for next for when come finals.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
On to our predictions.
Yeah. All right. I don't think the teams are out yet, so we can't go over the teams yet. But we can go over our tips. Predictions, rather. So. Okay. Friday night, Essendon, Collingwood, MCG.
Collingwood.
Yeah, Collingwood. Essendon could bounce back from the big loss, but Collingwood, just for the moment, we've probably got them. I've got my 15.
Some sort of momentum.
Yeah.
Some sort of momentum going into the finals, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just looking away second spot now. I'm playing us safe in my tipping comp, so first is already lost, so just looking a second. Hawks, Fremantle, MCG.
Hawks.
I got Hawks too. Can't remember how well Freo travel, but yeah, this should be a game of all time. I'm going to this one, so yeah, hopefully Newcomb's back as well. Get to see him again, and a lot more young guys. Huswaite. Was it Ryan?
Brandon Ryan.
That's the one. Yeah.
Kujitski comes back into the side as well.
Hopefully. Yeah. Just see a lot of young guys play against Fremantle who were a good side last season.
Yeah.
Hobart. North Melbourne versus Gold Coast.
Gold Coast.
Yeah, I Gold Coast too. I mean, North Melbourne, they have a chance, and Hobart. Suns, they prefer the warmer weather. And I don't think Dimmer's coaching them this game. I think it's just from next season. So
yeah,
Stephen King's last stint at it. I think he'll get the win. It's a good game against the Blues. How they go with the weather, we'll see. But I think it should be a close-ish competitive game. Suns just running around with it. Yeah. Gabba. Lions, Saints.
Lions.
I have the Lions too, but I want to put an asterisk on this game because the Saints are knocking on the front door, and I think they could be a very sneaky chance. It is at the Gabba.
Fair enough.
But I think they're a sneaky chance.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Cats, GMHPA hosting the Dogs.
The Cats.
I have the Dogs.
I've got the Cats. The only, it's at GMHBA, but the only reason they're really playing, what they're playing for this game is Isaac Smith's last round and knocking off the Dogs in the finals. So that's why it gives them some sort of oomph going into this game instead of going, we've a bit of a wasted season. Or not really a wasted season. The season's over for us. We're just going to give up and allow the Dogs to walk all over us. No, we're actually going to put some respect to our name and go for a fair dinkum crack and ruin the Dogs season as well.
Yeah, that'd be good to see. But I've got the Dogs. Now, on the official AFL tipping website, the odds and the prediction percentage are the complete opposite. So this says the Cats are more likely to win, but the odds say the Dogs are. So it's a bit weird there. But the Dogs, Bevo, he's going to somehow hold on to the job. I think last chance for the season, stay alive. I think the Dogs have managed to bring it home in enemy territory at that. I think Cats are too inconsistent right now for me to consider them.
If the Dogs win and they make finals, it sort of saves Wick Beveridge's job.
Exactly. Yeah. Reluctantly for the Bulldog supporters. We'll just move on. Unless you have anything else for that one.
No.
All right. Eagles at Perth hosting the Crows.
Crom.
yeah, they'll be fired up and angry to get this one over and done with.
Mm-hmm.
Port hosting Richmond.
Port.
Yeah, and we're in Sunday games now. Now a couple of good games coming up. The Swans hosting Melbourne.
I'll put the Swans.
I'll put the Swans too. I feel like they'll treat last week like a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna go, home ground. They're gonna get the job done. Probably, hopefully, lock away a home final.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I reckon that's that. So.
And also ruins a chance of Melbourne getting a home qualifying final as well.
Yes, but if Brisbane, Port Adelaide, and Collingwood are all winning, like we've all just established before, then they can't anyway.
Fair enough.
So, if that's the case, like Brisbane or Collingwood already win, it's like, would you rather play Collingwood or Brisbane? They'd probably prefer to play Collingwood anyway. So they might even just take that week off. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then, last but not least, Carlton, Marvel Stadium hosting the Giants.
I've got the Giants.
I have the Blues.
I've got the Giants. They're going to bring some fight. They're going to fight for their top 8 position, especially if the Dogs win.
There has been a tendency. Every single game, there's been a blowout, like round about or over 100 points. That team loses the week after. Happened with the Swans when they beat the Eagles. Happened with Free when they beat the Eagles.
Fair enough.
Happens to, was it the Hawks when they beat someone all the way around? And it will probably happen to the Giants this week, I would suspect. All right. A lot of times this season, I feel like this is going to break that mold. Carlton's in good form, coming off of a tough away game against the Suns, coming home, last game of the season, whole crowd behind them. I think they'll ride this one home, lock away that 5th spot.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're the predictions, the Preds, all done.
Let's go into player of the round.
Yep. Player of the round.
It was yours.
Jesse Hogan for the Giants. I mean, you can't look past 9 goals, was it 17 marks or something? Fantastic. In an absolute demolition.
Yeah, 100%. Notable mention to Charlie Curnow, who was my second favourite player of the week. My player of the week was Finn McGuinness.
Yep. That's fair enough.
Shutting down Clayton Oliver and causing people to sulk and carry on like a baby.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep. That's short, sweet.
Now, do we want to see me get angry, or do we want to see me laugh before I get angry?
Let's get angry and then we'll brighten up.
Okay.
All right. I want to put my light on. You start when you're ready.
Alrighty. So, Saturday night football, NK's from the boundary, kicks an obvious goal. And the umpire standing right in front of the goalpost and the ball. He's also got glasses, so he has no excuses not to see. Is looking dead straight at the ball. No sort of deviation between the ball and the post. There's a clear gap between the post, and he calls it a behind. Doesn't go to score review. Doesn't go to anything like that. With 1:11 to go, and such dire times, it has ruined Adelaide's chance of making finals, Geelong's chance of making finals. It's ruined so many things going into the top 8, and it's made the last round sort of it's an anticlimax because it should have been a goal. Adelaide should be in the run, and they should be finishing 8th position because they thoroughly deserve it. If I was a Crows supporter, I would be very disappointed. They should have gone to score review, and even then, I feel as though with every single goal or behind that's that close, with the time remaining and the stakes at hand, before going in, the field umpire instead of the goal umpire, and even the players should ask for a score review. They should be allowed, like in Test cricket, for example, you have three chances of going upstairs and looking at the technology.
They're doing basketball too, NBA.
Teams should be allowed that, as well as the field umpire taking the initiative to actually realise that it was pretty close and go up to the goal umpire and say, I'm going to score review this because I'm not exactly sure whether or not that was a goal or a behind. And it's happened 2 weeks in a row. Caleb Marchbank, I'm not sure. You think it was touched? I think it was a goal. This was an obvious goal. And I appreciate that Gillan McLaughlin has the kahunas to come out and apologise on the umpire's behalf. But I would have rather see the umpire himself come out and admit he's wrong. Because yes, of course, he's the AFL CEO. He can just say stuff. But unfortunately, it was just too late. It was just too late. Unless they, I think the Crows board is really angry and they want some form of compensation, and apparently the compensation is going to be a second round pick. That's just, don't take my word for it. The Adelaide Crows should be playing finals. I'm probably more mellow than what I was during the Adelaide and Sydney review of the game, but I am very distraught that the technology wasn't up to scratch and that the umpire, you can say it's human error, but at the same time, it's so blatantly obvious that it was a goal with replays, and everyone's saying on the media that it was a goal and it's ruined their season, and it has. It's ruined the Crows season, and 2024 will be the year of the Crows' revenge. It is going to be the villain arc of the Crows because they should be playing finals. They've got veterans who are at the twilight of their career, nearing retirement, and any finals experience would pay them dividends because they want a chance of getting that Premiership medal. And they were the most, besides Carlton, they were the most dangerous team outside of the top four, in my opinion.
Yep.
So, like in the words of Matthew Lloyd, it really does leave a sour taste in my mouth after watching that. And it's still being spoken about today. And one of my mates told me yesterday, Elijah, believe it or not, that they announced the Dimmer Hardwick coaching appointment to sort of push the Crows' Sydney debacle aside, so then we're concentrating on Dimmer. We can't just forget that. We can't just forget that happened. There needs to be change, and it needs to be done now.
I don't know if I believe that, but
before it happens in the final, because the umpiring this year has been so inconsistent, even with dangerous tackles, high tackles, score reviews. They could have even used Snicko. They didn't even use Snicko to see whether or not he hit the post. It was quite devastating to see.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So.
And then I'll just add one last thing. If they did end up overturning the decision later on, so say today they change the decision, they go, oh, it's a goal, we're going to give Crows the points. Then, in the other hand, there'd have to be some form of justice for Sydney because there was still 1:10 to go and they could have kicked another goal back. So, yes, Sydney did win the first half, like you said, and Crows won the second half. Both clubs deserve some form of justice and explanation as to what will happen if something like that occurs between those two clubs and any club again.
Yeah. I do still think just in the moment, mistake by the goal umpire, which cost them the game, but not much you can do about it now. just for the integrity of the game, I feel like you just have to carry on. I guess there's a benefit for the Crows. They get a high pick now anyway. They don't get those 4 points, right? So looking on the bright side, they'll probably get a top 8 pick now. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think a whole lot got me too angry this week.
Yeah.
Maybe Essendon, because I had them to win, and they didn't even rock up to the football ground. They played against the under 12s. So I mean, that's unfortunate to see. Just a bit of immaturity even from the Essendon players, because Redmond signs a good contract, played bad. You know, a lot of good things happened during the week for them, but they just said, "Oh, we'll take the week off. It's fine." Finals aren't happening this year yet, so I mean, unless they beat Collingwood by 100, Blues beat the Giants by 100, and Dogs lose, it's off the table. So another year, no more finals for Essendon. Well, finals win rather.
The Giants have won more finals than Essendon in the past 20 years.
Well, yeah. Well, speaking of, let me see how many days since Essendon's won a final last. It's been, as of today, which is Wednesday the 23rd of August, 6,896 days.
Soon to be 10,000. Yay.
We're so close. Just a couple more seasons.
But
But speaking of being around shorter time than winning a final, the funny moments.
Yes, funny moments.
I never think for it.
Funny moment.
So the banner. We'll start with the banner.
Yeah,
the Giants banner.
GWS banner. What did it say?
I'll pull it up. I probably can't get it on the screen for you viewers, but the Giants banner before the game.
Was on no context footy.
Right. Well, I'm Google Images right now, so that does. That doesn't help. All right. Let's look something else. I'll come back to it.
All right. Okay. Whilst Elijah's looking for that, what made me laugh? There was a Richmond supporter singing the St Kilda theme song. Obviously Simon Goodwin complaining about Finn McGuinness. That was pretty funny. The video of the guy on the beach dancing to the Gold Coast theme song, and I guess the last thing was a very old video popped up for the Crows. We were robbed. We were.
Yeah. Another thing. Devon, last name was Robbins.
Devon Robinson, his shirt got ripped off, and he has gained 20k followers on Instagram because he has the rig of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Absolute legend.
What did the banner say?
I'll just send it to you, but it's been a long time the Bombers have waited. Last time they won a final, we weren't even created.
And they'll still be waiting.
Yeah, that was 2005. 7 years later, Giants. So,
on to final messages. The only message I have is in regards to Jack Zabel. He got king hit outside a bar or club and has had a full facial reconstruction. Not really the way that you want to end your career with a king hit.
No, coward's punch rather.
Coward's punch.
It's sad, very sad to see. I was gonna say unfortunate. It's it shouldn't be happening.
Disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was out with what? I heard that he's like Tom Mitchell and Dusty Martin, and someone decided to attack him. And
21-year-old, so people our age as well.
Yeah, so hopefully he's alright, but we don't want to see that at all. And I guess going into the end of the season, we'll still be here, going into finals. And top four's locked in. Blues are locked into finals too. Oh, I guess Swans, Saints, and Blues are locked into finals. Just the Dogs or the Giants seeing who'll get in, and then the order from there. Next week.
Some exciting times up ahead.
Yeah, and some good games, pretty much everywhere, right? So, I think most of our viewers are from Melbourne, right? So if you're in Melbourne, you get the Friday night game. Essendon and Collingwood. You got the Hawks, Fremantle. This shouldn't be as close, but it has a chance to, right? If you want to go out to Geelong, it's the Cats Dogs game, and then
if you want to, if you live in Melbourne, just go on your merry way. An hour and a half hour drive to GMHBA.
Yeah,
just have a grand old time.
Yeah, or you can go on Sunday, 6 p.m.
6:10.
6:10 p.m. But Carlton GWS Marble Stadium on the Sunday.
At a peculiar time. So if you have work on Monday, good luck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll finish what, 8:30?
8:30.
They'll cost us a 9, but that'll be a rip up. That's basically the decider for basically the top 8. Yeah, especially if Dogs win. So.
And that is another episode. Make sure you follow and subscribe. Twitter, YouTube, hit that notification bell. Ding, ding. And that is Jakob and Elijah from the Premiership Podcast. Out.
Catch you guys. Thank you.